Okay. Trustees of Harris County Department of Education now convened in a regular board meeting on Wednesday, January 15th, in the boardroom at 6300 Irvington Boulevard, Houston, Texas, at 1:08 p.m. I wish to extend a warm welcome to everyone present at this meeting of the Board of Trustees. As trustees, we are here to set goals, listen to reports from the superintendent, approve budgets, contracts, personnel appointments, and make policy for the district. It is not the role of the board to make day-to-day operational decisions. The management and day-to-day operations of the department are the responsibility of the superintendent. We have policies and procedures in place to resolve concerns and issues. This is a public meeting of the Board of Trustees, not a meeting of the public. Prior to this meeting, board members received information related to items on today's agenda. Agenda items will not necessarily be handled in the order listed on the notice. The meeting is open to all who wish to attend and hear matters discussed. During the course of this meeting, the board may determine that a closed session is necessary. In that event, the board will meet in closed session to consider matters duly posted for this meeting as permitted under Section 551071 to 551084, inclusive of the Texas Government Code. I respectfully ask that you please refrain from talking while others are speaking and that cell phones are turned off or in silent mode. Thank you for taking time this afternoon to join us for your interest in the Harris County Department of Education. We are going to start off today, as we always do, with the invocation. Crystal Johnson, if you would, please.
Good afternoon. This is the invocation. Father, thank you for every seat that has been filled here today. For each mind and heart that fills the presence of this room, we thank you. Only you truly know what we are setting out to accomplish today. Bless this meeting today, all those present, as well as the lives of those we will encounter afterward. Ready us to make every moment count. Amen.
Let's have the Pledge of Allegiance and also the pledge, to the U.S. flag and Texas flag by Ilian Gonzalez. Hope I said your name right. Ileana, I'm sorry.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to start off with the open forum, and we have Colleen Vera. You signed up. If you would, please come up.
Good afternoon. My name is Colleen Vera. I'm a retired Texas public school teacher. I handed you 3 pages of a 2018 report. You'll find it on your desk from the Texas Education Agency concerning improper restraints Hcde performed on a Cy-Fair ISD student in one of your special schools. Hcde was not reprimanded by the state because you're considered a contractor. Instead, Cy-Fair ISD was slapped on the hand for not making sure that their students were protected while in your schools. Fox 26 ran the story, but here at Hcde it was simply swept under the rug. It wasn't the first horror story to come out of Hcde schools, but it was one of the only ones which produced public documents to prove the abuse. We now have 2 new board members and new officers. I'm here today to challenge this board to address public concerns over the treatment of students in your special schools. I'm asking you to hire Disability Rights Texas to perform a complete evaluation of your special schools and to issue a report publicly at one of these board meetings so the public can rest assured once and for all that HCD is providing quality services for the most vulnerable students in your special schools. I understand that it's not on today's agenda and you cannot address it, so I'm asking it be placed on the next agenda and publicly discussed. The only reason anyone would argue against a public review is obvious. They want to continue to hide from the public what's really going on inside the public schools. And the reason someone would object to Disability Rights Texas performing the review is because HCD can't control the outcome. I look forward to this board finally publicly addressing this major concern. Thank you.
Colleen, so you said Disability Rights Texas, what did you want them to do?
To do a complete evaluation of the special schools.
And what was you said, you mentioned with Cypress ISD, what was the punishment they received? Do you know?
It was that they have to start paying closer attention, basically reviewing. I don't know, your superintendent would know more about that than I do.
Okay, so you aren't familiar with exactly their punishment?
No, TEA just issues a report.
Okay, well,
So
thank
I don't
you.
know, I didn't do those open records requests.
Does
And most of the problem is that the students' records are, private, so I would not be able to get that anyway. Thank you, but it would be really nice for the public to have a public report. That would just be awesome.
I hear your concerns, and I'm going to evaluate it.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, we're going to go, this is the exciting part. We're going to present the new board members. We're going to the reports and presentations, and we got two new board members, and we are going to present them and take a photo with them. So that's what we're going to do right now.
Okay, this way a little bit, and come forward. All right, now we're dancing. Okay, here we go. And smile. Okay, hold it. You get turned on here. One time. One more. I got it. No, I could not see it. I'm good. Thank you. Perfect.
Okay. The Harris County Board of Trustees we're going to hold a public hearing on today, January 15, 2020, I guess now at, what time is it? 1:15 p.m. Board meeting, or we're having at the 1 p.m. board meeting. It's now 1:15 at 6300 Irvington Boulevard in the boardroom for the annual fiscal management report for the fiscal year ending August 31st, 2019. So with that, I'm going to, please proceed, Dr. Mesqua.
Thank you.
Please.
You have a copy of the annual financial management report as we prepared it, and we also have a brief presentation. This report, the purpose is to make sure entities that are held accountable for the quality of the financial management practices. It is a first rating report now. Hcde does not have a first rating, so we adapt the indicators to Harris County Department of Ed. And also discloses the quality of local management and decision-making process that impact the allocation of financial resources, and encourages entities to manage the financial resources better. This was created by Senate Bill 218 of the 77 legislature since 2001, and it is part of the Texas Administrative Code Chapter 109 on budgeting, accounting, and auditing. This is our annual financial management report and public hearing. We have to have a public hearing for public consumption, and we post this information on our website as well. The required financial disclosures on this report is a superintendent's current contract in the report, any reimbursements for mileage, lodging, meals, transportation, conference fees, compensation, and other business phone calls, supplies received by each board member and each superintendent, and the total for that is for the year $104,137. The detail is in your presentation in your packet. The amount of compensation or fees received by the superintendent, none. The amount of gifts valued at $250 or more declared by the board members, none. The amount of business transactions between Hcde and each board member, none. And then a summary of data submitted under the financial solvency provisions of the Texas Education Code, Chapter 39.0822. So there are adapted financial indicators. There are a total of 15, of which 11 indicators are applicable to Hcde, and all of them were met. The first one is, was the CAFR completed in a timely manner? The first indicator, yes, in 2019, it was presented, it will be presented today. Last year, in comparison to last year, it was presented January 16, 2019. Excuse me. Financial indicator number 2A, was there an unmodified opinion in the comprehensive annual financial report? And the answer to that, yes, and you will hear the report from our external auditors later on in the agenda. Same thing as was the unmodified opinion for 2018 as well. Number 2B is, was the CAFR not disclose any instances of material weaknesses in internal control? The answer is yes, the indicator was met. There was no material weaknesses disclosed on the report this year or last year. No, indicator number 3, was the department in compliance with all payment terms and all debt agreements at fiscal year end? The indicator was met, yes, the department was in compliance with all agreements in 2019 and 2018. Indicator number 4, did the department make timely payments to the teacher retirement system, the Texas Workforce Commission, and the Internal Revenue Service, and all governmental agencies? The indicator, yes, was met. All payments were made on a timely basis in 2019 and in 2018. Financial indicator number 5, was the total unrestricted net asset balance in the statement of net assets greater than 0? Now, this is an adapted one because it's based on the government-wide. This is the one that includes the pension, and so when you adjust the pension, the amount is 30 million. So the amount here is minus 17 million, and that's the pension that we talked about in the audit committee or earlier today. Financial indicator number 6, was the number of days cash on hand and current investments in the general fund sufficient to cover operating expenditures, excluding facilities acquisition and construction? And the number of days on cash was 257, a little bit more than last year. We were at 232 a year ago. Indicator number 7, was the measure of current assets to current liabilities, or the working capital ratio for the department, sufficient to cover short-term debt? The answer is yes, the ratio was 17% higher than a year ago, which was 10% in 2018. Indicator number 8,
Was the ratio of long-term liabilities to total assets for the department sufficient to support long-term solvency? The answer is yes. The ratio was 51%, same as last year. Indicator number 9, did the Department General Fund revenues equal or exceed expenditures excluding facility acquisition and construction? The answer is yes. Revenue of expenditures projected at 2019 at 3.2, and last year in 2018 were 4.2. Financial indicator number 10, was the debt service coverage ratio sufficient to meet the required debt service? Excuse me. Hcde does not have a debt service rate. However, general fund funds all payments, and so the ratio times coverage is 12.37, a little bit higher than 2019 at 11.71. Financial indicator number 11, administrative cost ratio equal or less than the threshold, was not applicable to Hcde. Did the school have 15% decline in students? Again, because we don't have students that are in the PIMS system, this is not applicable. Number 13, also in the PIMS data, was not applicable. And then number 14, did the external independent auditor indicate in the annual financial report that was free of any instance of material non-compliance for grants, contracts, laws, and related to local, state, or federal funds? The answer, yes. Indicator was met. The audit report did not identify any instances of material non-compliance for fiscal year 19 and fiscal year 18. And then the last one, number 15, did the school district not receive an adjusted payment from the state? Again, we don't get foundation payment, so it is not applicable to Harris County Department of Education. This is the report, and we'll open up for any public comment or any information that you may have. You have a copy of the report that has been made available to you. We'll also post it on our website as required by the code.
This is an opportunity if anyone in the public would like to make a statement. Seeing nobody, we're going to move on with the agenda. An annual update from the Center for Grants Development from Gayla Rollison.
Yes. Yeah, you did good. Thank you. Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. I'm going to present the presentation on the Center for Grants Development, and I want to thank you for this opportunity to share with you how we've been doing, and we've been doing for the past year, but actually for many years. So if I could please ask my staff to stand. I have here with me Joyce Akins, Crystal Johnson, Dr. Vida L. Avery, Charbon Pipkins-Kamaya, tell me if I get it wrong, and Ileana Gonzalez. They're vital to the progress that I'm going to share with you today. So I just wanted to acknowledge them and the work that they do. They're fabulous. I also want to thank those divisions, because we have to partner with other Hcde divisions and with the business office to be able to acquire the grants that I'm going to talk about. And if we didn't have their capacity, their success, their acknowledgments, their everything, I could go on about, you know, the depth of the work that they do for our organization. It makes it easier for us and for the work that we do. I mean, this was a testament, just what Jesus talked about just a few minutes ago, as to what we're able to do with the work that they do. This past year, we joined with 7 divisions, AC divisions, to submit 106 requests. Our center, we served over 5,700 people from over 900 organizations through the customized research, funding research that we do, that we post to public forums, proposal reviews and comments, workshops, and other technical support we offer the community. Our clients include all of the 25 Hcde service districts, as well as the 45+ charter schools. So we work with them, and other educational entities come to us as well. We also handle Hcde donor sponsor reporting, acknowledgement, which we send to business service to report to the board. During this past year, in collaboration with Hcde divisions, we were awarded over $18 million. Since September of 1998, when the center began, ACD has been awarded over $500 million, $545 million. We were involved with 394, sorry, I made it bigger, 394 million of these awards with over 183 million of the dollars competitive requests. These funds have helped HCD serve over 450,000 infants, children, youth, adults during that time period, and those are conservative numbers. And that's in partnership with the local community and with HCD divisions. We were able to develop, oh gosh, I got a whole list. After school, dropout recovery, early childhood intervention, Head Start, mentoring, district crisis planning, school safety, virtual schools, and just to name a few, as a result of those dollars that have been able to come into the organization, and then we've been able to administer effectively. During the past 5 years alone, we've worked on requests that have brought in over $83 million, and that's an average of $16.6 million annually. That has resulted in our office generating over 30 times what it costs to the organization. The next two slides reflect the distribution of requests and awards by division. We kind of keep up with and make sure we're getting to each of the divisions within the organization that can utilize our services the best. So these range from 1 to 46 requests, and it's just depending on the division and what they want from us. And then the awards range from 1 to 16. No, yes, that's right. Yes. So I also provided for you the highlighted awards. So this is the list of highlighted awards from Case for Kids to Teaching and Learning Center, and you have a full list in your report. Here's a list of the highlighted grants. Well, no, here's the donations that we've reported as well and submitted. So this year we received almost $100,000, and we did see a decrease in donations reported to our office, but as you see, those kind of go up and down every year. The divisions generate these donations themselves. So, and then they report them to our office, which we report to business service and to the board. This also allows us to acknowledge those donors and sponsors, and Mr. Colbert signs a letter then that goes out to those that contribute to our organization. Other highlights include weekly notification, funding opportunities that we send to ACD divisions, our direct support to school districts and to charters. We disseminate grant opportunities on a monthly basis that we send out to those groups. We also train our districts and charters on preparing proposals. We work with them and engage them in collaborative grants, so they work with us on grants as well, our school districts and our charters. And we work with districts to submit bid proposals so that they can enter into contracts to access those services, so the districts can access our services. We also support our field. So besides everything else that they do, we work in the community, and we offer grant-related sessions, as well as we participate in local and national committees and boards. This leads us to our challenges, trends and challenges that we're encountering, and we have quite a few that I have listed here. We're constantly witnessing changes to our world and our processes within both public and private funders, and that affect our organization. So we are constantly looking at ways to avoid those missed opportunities, encourage and engage in more collaborative endeavors with organizations. We look at how we can partner with others on their grants, so we can influence our eligibility on grants as well. And I'm hopeful that will continue. ACD is a good example of how grants can elevate practice and transform an organization so that we can continue to initiate, expand the programs that we are offering. I've been very fortunate to have been here and to witness, the transformation and the way we're able to diversify our funds, that not all organizations have that capacity. So I thank you. That's the end of my presentation. Do you have any questions?
Please, Andrew.
I'm new at this. I just want to state that I was really impressed with something it said your success rate was something in the 90th percentile. I don't know what that.
Well, actually for this past year, 35.8% of our requests were funded. But what you're probably speaking to is our client satisfaction, and that's like our internal satisfaction. We're at like 96% of others being satisfied with the work that we're performing.
I was just particularly impressed with your report, and I want to thank you all for the hard work that you're doing.
Thank you. Anything else?
Thank you, Gayla. Okay.
I got one question. I'm sorry.
Please, Richard, please.
Sorry. Didn't know you were done.
I'm here.
As you know, we've been discussing the role and the need for the foundation.
Yes.
Just, would you tell us how important the foundation is to your job and what we could do with it and what we couldn't do without it?
Yes. We do have those private funders that are required to grant monies to 501c3 nonprofit organizations. We have had those funders in the past that have said, hey, y'all have a 501c3 nonprofit. We would like to go through that nonprofit. That's our preference, to flow monies through that nonprofit to your organization in order to implement those grants. And we reap the benefit through our Case for Kids, as well as other divisions, instructional support at one point. So we've had different grants. So it is very vital to us diversifying those types of grants that we receive. The 501c3, having an operating 501c3 with all of the pieces that are required, as you know, Mr. Cantu, more intimately than most people, being on the ISD Education Foundation Board, is that you have to have certain things in place, and then people many times, in order to access higher dollars for grants. They look for an organization to have a certain size budget, operational budget, in order to draw other dollars down. We know we cannot apply for a $2-3 million grant through our 501c3 if we have a $100,000 budget. It just isn't something that a private foundation would think would be reasonable. So it limits our capacity as to what we can do and what requests we can make. We went from like 30 to 22, and this last year we did 9 requests through our Education Foundation. And we work with Danielle Bartz, who's our liaison, with the Education Foundation, I'll defer to her, on those requests and to make sure we're engaging that board in what we're doing with them. So yes, I hope that answers your question. I mean, those are actual examples and things that we experience every day. We would love for the foundation to have more capacity.
Gayla, your recommendation is that we look into the foundation, we do more with the foundation?
Correct.
Okay. Does anybody else have any more questions for Gayla? Thank you, Gayla. Okay, let's move on to Superintendent Monthly Reports from James Colbert.
Thank you, President Dick. Just a few things to report. First, next week we will be traveling out to Austin for the annual Midwinter Conference. This is the biggest conference of the year in the state of Texas for educators. There's 2 conferences statewide that happens each year. One is typically in September or October, and that's normally geared for board members. But the Midwinter Conference that takes place in Austin is geared 100% towards central office, principals, counselors, the whole 9 yards, and it's big. We'll be well over 10,000 people there. Typically, we get to hear from the commissioner. Once again, we had the honor of being able to do a presentation, a separate breakout session, just on Fortis Academy with our Alcohol and Drug Recovery High School, our Sobriety High School. Last year, we had a pretty packed room. This year, I think they've given us a bigger room because districts are interested in that. The title of our presentation will be Possible Cure for Drug-Related Offenses. Because right now, the cure that many school districts use is to send the student to an alternative school and not address the problem at all. And so we know that they're going to be very receptive to using other strategies other than essentially punishing a child for an addiction that they may have. Important to note that this will be our believe, third presentation this year. We presented at Boston University during the summer. I was able to sit on the panel with Ohio State this year relating to Fortis, and so this will be our third presentation in 12 months. The other conference we have going on is one that we actually host, is our Early Childhood Winter Conference, where Ms. Seagraves is coordinating that. That's been going on for how many years, Ms. Seagraves? 34th. The 34th year. Really awesome event. I would invite the board members if you can attend. I believe, Danny, did you go to it last year? Yeah, Mr. Norris went to it last year. We typically have well over 900 educators from all across the state. In fact, I think we have some coming from other states that are there. But they usually get pretty fired up. It's in the same venue that we had Convocation in, and it happens on a Saturday. So if you have the ability to attend that, you should certainly make your way out there. Last week we had a surprise visit from TEA. They felt the need to come down and check us out because they admire us so much. That's a joke. But they actually gave me a call at like 10:30 and said, we're going to be there in 2.5 hours, and we're coming to look at 2 of your campuses, our AB East and AB West campus. And certainly I was excited to be able to show off the good things that we do for our students down there. They brought in a team, and Dr. Mays put together and assembled his crew and had lots of brass in that room, and it gave them a thorough presentation of how we advocate for young people, specifically special needs students. He spent that Thursday spending about 3-4 hours kind of debriefing them on our processes, procedures, protocol, many of the new staff that we've hired. They're doing a really good job, and the systems that we have in place where we work with our special ed populations. On Friday, they started their day at AB East and spent several hours there, and then went out to AB West, the home of the Knights, and went to that campus and spent several hours there. Needless to say, on their way back to Austin, they were exhausted. And that's what we aspire to do, is to overwhelm and show people all the things that we do, the dynamic instruction and service that we provide to the school districts throughout Harris County. Our aspiration is to be the champions for special needs students, to be the advocates, to refine and master our craft with a population that is not always easy to deal with. And we take pride in that. And we take pride in our campus, our principals who lead those campuses, and our staff that work in them. And we love our students and our parents who also send their students and trust us with them. And with that, sir, that's all I have.
Thank you. And we're going to move on to a report of the Board Feasibility Subcommittee with Don Summers. Do you have anything for us?
I have no report this month. The committee has not met.
Okay. We're going to move on. Are there other reports from board members concerning attendance or participation in a board or HCD-related conference, event, activity, or committee, accolades for an HCDE staff member, or other deserving person? I would give I actually got to talk to Judge Eric Andel this morning, and I'm going to give him a little bit of a shout out because he told me that he was one of the founders of High Point Academy, and he was very proud of us doing High Point, and he wanted us to keep on doing the good work. So I'm giving a shout out to Judge Eric Andel. Okay, so let's go to monthly finance reports through 12/31/19. Dr. Jesus Mesquia.
You have copies of the financial highlights and the information posted on our website. These are as of December 31st, 2019. We'll also review the budget amendment report, and all our information is posted on our website. The balance sheet as of December 31st, we have assets of $35,341,827, liabilities of $2,106,306, and equity of $3,235,521. The estimated fund balance is $29,089,875. You will hear the update today as of August 31st, and we'll update this slide next time once the board has been presented and the report has been presented to the board and approved. The financial ratios for the December 31st, percentage of fund balance to general fund expenditures ratio were 143% versus 194 last year. At the same time, working capital ratio at 33 million versus 31 million last year. Indicators of efficient leverage reserves. We have unassigned fund balance ratio, we're at 63% versus the same 63 at last year. Debt to income ratio at 0%. We have not made any payments so far for this year for principal and interest. The first payment will be on February the 15th. Tax revenue to total revenue ratio, we're at 14% versus 3% last year. Indirect cost ratio, we're holding at 3%, same as last year. Revenue growth indicator, we're at 34%, slightly under 38% last year. And fee-for-service growth ratio at 12% versus 17% a year ago. The budgeted activity, in November we had a budget amendment of $110,000. And revenues year to date, we have received or billed 28%. December is the fourth month, or is approximately 33% of the fiscal year lapsed. Overall, we're at 23%. Some of our taxes have not come in yet, so you'll start seeing those in the month of January, where that number will rise and we'll catch up with our taxes and our revenues. Budget amendments cumulative as of December. You'll see that each month all the amendments that have been approved by the board. Expenditures were at 28%. Again, under the 33% threshold on a flat scale, 31% overall. So we're under performing the budget. So it's good that we're under the 33% benchmark. Our donations were at $7,678. In kind, $95,540. Total of $103,218 year to date. And we've received donations reported by case for kids, teaching and learning center, and Head Starts. Our collections and appraisal district, in the month of December, we are certified value as of December is $480,809,352, which is slightly higher than the $427 billion that we started with. And there's still $3.3 billion left under protest or not certified just yet. So when you compare that to what we started, if everything materializes, the values will have grown by $1 billion from September, when the adoption of the tax rate will happen in the month of September. Should that happen, we will receive $50,540 more at the end of the year. Again, we'll see on the next few months to see if everything gets certified. Year-to-date collections were at $2,942,000, or 15%. Again, most of the taxes we're going to be receiving in the month of January and February. So January should be a big month, so you will see about 80% number in that category. Year-to-date, Hcde fees for the appraisal district, $44,027. Tax office fees, $15,097. Disbursements for the month, we had 467 checks, 631 transactions and transfers, totaling $3,155,281. All that is included in your packet and the detail posted on our website. Segment information data, including encumbrances for governmental activities. Oh, hello. Educator certification, negative $152,200. A lot of revenue is in the spring, so we'll look at catching up in that item. Records management is holding up onto the positive of $31,257. School-based therapists at $13,915. In schools at $314,605. In the second month, we will bill for the remainder of the year. So you will see this variance improve in the January report for special schools. Choice Partners benefit ratio of 59%, which means that so far, out of a projected $2 million transferred to the general fund, so far they're at $1.4 million. So they're on target to go beyond that. So we will continue to monitor that to hopefully receive beyond the budgeted amount. Budget amendments for the month, general fund are $273,000, and grants and special revenue funds are $70,170. In the general fund, we have facilities replacement of bands and a total about $100,000 in the general fund. Department-wide miscellaneous encumbrances roll forward $50,000. Superintendent's expenditure $50,000. Budget manager for safe schools, additional revenue and expenses for additional audits that they will be conducting for safe and secure schools. The roll forward for grants for the school stop violence budget, it's $70,174. In terms of AB West update, as of December 31st, the original amount was $11,029,134 in terms of the budget or the project expenditure budget. Year-to-date expenses are $7,551,570. Available funds, or rather interest, is $468,660, of which $51,730 are set aside for arbitrage because we've been earning above the interest rate that the bonds were sold at. Year-to-date and the cash balance for the project account for the PFC as of December is $4,912,001. Here's a list of all the payments from inception since 2016 to date. And as of December, there was only one additional payment in December, which was for $773,954, which was payment number 11 to the contractor. Year-to-date available, $4,912,001, and it is scheduled to end in February 2020. There was an amendment at the PFC meeting to extend the contract and the date of substantial completion to February 2020. In terms of the foundation, Education Foundation update, as of December 31st, we have assets of $86,688 and liabilities and equity of $86,688, the same amount. Only one transaction of $74,250 coming from the Foundation for After-School Programs, $74,250, and another transaction of $52.19 and $7.81. So very minimal transaction in the foundation. Any questions on the financial statement report?
I do not believe we have any.
Thank you. We have the investment report now. The next one, again, as of December 31st, 2019, all our information is posted on our website, and it meets state standards under the government code and section 22256 of the government code. Our portfolio is $37,502,943, of which the Public Facilities Corporation is $35,553. 81% is on Techstar, 5% in TechSpool, 8% in Lone Star, and 6% at Chase. 98% of our PFC is in Bank of Texas, TechSpool, and 1.74 is at Bank of Texas funds at this point in time. The portfolio from this year to last year, it is minus $2,597,572, or minus 6%, primarily because of the payments and usage of the PFC transactions that now the construction continues on, so there's less money available to invest. All our funds are overnight. 32.2 million is basically a overnight fund. We've earned year-to-date 175,820. The PFC has earned 43,129. We've earned 1.60, and the benchmark is 1.52, slightly above the benchmark. As you can see here, there's been since the last few months issues with the market, that it has actually come back and the rates are continue to go down. A lot of that is maybe cyclical, but it started going up and then all of a sudden it started going back down the last 3 or 4 months. And we're about in the 150 to 160 trend at this point in time. Questions on any of the investment report? Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to move to the consensus agenda. Does anybody have something they want to remove from the consensus agenda? Pull. Pull, remove, okay. So it looks like, okay. So do I have a motion?
So moved.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Do we have any discussion regarding the consent agenda? Hearing none, let's move it for a vote. All in favor, raise your hand. So let's move to the non-consensus agenda. Consider acceptance of the 2018-2019 annual finance audit. If I remember right, all I have to do is read the.
This one.
Oh, and we have a presentation. Okay, well, let's have the presentation. Oh yeah, we have.
Yes, we have the a copy of the comprehensive annual financial report, and I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Salina Cereceres with Whitley Penn, and they are our external auditor, and she's the partner in charge of the engagement, and she will review some of the information with you.
Well, thank you very much for having me here again, Mr. President, members of the board, and Mr. Colbert. This morning we met with the audit committee to discuss the same presentation, and so I'll go through it probably a little bit briefer, but feel free to stop me if anything came to mind since the last time we met. The purpose of the audit is to issue an opinion on the financial statement. So the comprehensive annual financial report that Dr. Amezcua alluded to includes the basic financial statements, supplementary information, as well as procedures that we performed, audits that we performed over certain federal major programs. And so there's 3 types of opinions, and every entity's goal is to earn an unmodified opinion. Now, it is quite a process to earn an unmodified opinion, and our goal is to issue an unmodified opinion, but it's not guaranteed. So management works with us throughout the year. Through the risk assessment, we inquire if anything has changed, et cetera. We meet with several departments throughout the department, identify key controls, test the controls, also that we could design our procedures once the district closes its books as of August 31st. We came back in early November and performed our substantive testing and everything to obtain sufficient audit evidence. Once we've gathered all of that and we feel comfortable, we can issue an opinion, one of the 3 types that I spoke about before. Some of the critical areas or departments that we visited were HR, payroll, procurement, accounts payable. We've tested the controls in these areas, several transactions, and not just general financial report or financial transactions, but also your federal transactions that are included in these areas. Information technology, choice partners revenues, and other service revenues, those individuals were visited. As far as financial close and reporting, we also met with Stephanie and her staff and Dr. Amesqua as well. Some of the required communications, again, the entire process started with our engagement letter, which was dated March 7, 2019. Our audit is performed in accordance with government auditing standards, and so there's very specific requirements, and I'll speak to those when we get to the compliance areas. There are estimates included in your financial statements, and those have to do with your useful lives of your capital assets as they affect depreciation. The percentage of uncollectible property taxes is also an estimate determined by historical trends as well as management's knowledge. The net pension and OPEB liabilities and those related deferred inflows and outflows are determined by the state of Texas through the teacher retirement system. And so you really don't have any control over that. The only control that you have is over the contributions you make into the pension and the OPEB plans based on those statutorily determined rates. Had we had any difficulties during the audit, we'd be required to report those to you during the audit committee and here as well, and we're pleased to report there were none. We didn't have any uncorrected misstatements, nor did we have to propose any misstatements, nor did we pass on any audit adjustments. The last piece of audit evidence is the management representation letter, where management asserts that they have provided us with everything that we needed to complete our audit and issue our opinion. Had the department consulted with other accountants as far as opinion shopping, we'd be required to report that to you here today, and to our knowledge, that did not occur. Any issues discussed with management was not as contingent on our retention as your auditors. In other words, if our advice was asked on any matter, any transaction, if the answer is no, we feel comfortable saying no, that's not proper, but that rarely happens where we have to say no. You have an attorney on hand and very diligent and capable management team where that rarely happens. The opinions that we're issuing over your financial statements, they are by opinion unit, and it is an unmodified opinion on all opinion units. There are no internal control findings nor any compliance findings. So government auditing standards would require us to report any non-compliance with the PFIA items that we're required to test, procurement, or anything else that the state promulgates. As far as the major federal programs we tested this year, they were Head Start, Early Head Start, and the Child and Adult Care Food Program that are part of the Head Start program. We are also issuing an unmodified opinion, and there are no internal control findings to report, no significant deficiencies or material weaknesses.
Hold on, I have a
Yes.
question. Oh, good, you went back to the other
Yes.
slide. So what's our rating ultimately? What did you give us?
A clean opinion, unmodified.
That's the highest one?
That's the highest and the best that you can obtain. And it's expected by every entity, but it's not easy to get there. It takes a lot of work.
That is the best one, though,
That
right?
is the best and the highest and the cleanest.
So what did we get last year
And also an unmodified, clean, highest opinion.
before that?
Many years, yes.
So in your professional opinion, would you agree that we are the exception?
There's
No.
a lot. No.
I've pushed my luck. I went too far.
It's not the exception, but there's a lot of entities that work hard to get the clean opinion. What I will say is that not every entity continues to have no findings. There are a lot of entities.
That is exceptional,
Right.
then,
There are
yeah.
entities that get internal control findings.
You just need to emphasize that. We've been at this for 5 years, and I'm always having to prompt you
Yes.
to emphasize how exceptional we are.
Yes.
Thank
Very
you.
black and white, just say it as it is written. Total assets, so let's go into the financial statement highlights. This is everything that the district or the department owns and everything that it owes. Total assets and deferred outflows were $110.6 million, and some of the key items within here were $44.5 million for cash and cash equivalents. Capital assets were $50.5 million, and then deferred outflows were $8.7 million. what the department owes to its debtors, and then I'll make sure that I explain the first two bullet points, were $80.4 million. I will emphasize that the $13.1 million and the $32.2 million related to the TRS net pension and net OPEB liabilities do not represent a check that you're going to have to write tomorrow. So these are liabilities determined by TRS and their actuaries, and it is based on your proportionate share. And that proportionate share is calculated based on your contributions. So every school district, and since you are part of TRS and even community colleges that participate, have their proportionate share, and they too are reporting this liability. And then it goes even further. Entities across the United States that conform to GASB, or the Government Accounting Standards Board, have to also report this. And TRS is a cost-sharing plan, and therefore that's why you have to report your proportionate share. Bonds and note payable are your liability, and you make principal and interest payments on an annual basis. The deferred inflows related to the pension and OPEB liabilities were $11.6 million. So your net worth or your net position is $30.2 million. If we dissect your general fund or your operating fund, and this is what you're accustomed to seeing when you review your budget to actual, and you'll notice too that you don't see capital assets or long-term debt in the general fund because it is based on current resources and uses. So total revenues were $50.4 million, an increase from last year of $48.5 million, with property taxes totaling $23.1 million, or 46% of total revenues. The next highest category is tuition and fees at $21.4 million, or 42%. You have some federal funding representing indirect cost at $1.8 million. You also earned some interest at $800,000. State revenue totaled $3.3 million, with $3.1 million of it, which is made up of on-behalf revenue contributed by or set aside by TRS on their books. If we look at expenditures, they totaled $47.2 million, an increase of $3 million from the prior year. The highest expenditure categories or department or functional categories is your school-based therapy, special school and services, and department-wide functional expenditures at $10.6, $12.1, and $6.7 million. You have all of the other expenditure categories or functional categories listed as well, but those three make up the bulk of your expenditures. If we look at it by object or natural classification, you'll see that payroll costs totaled $34.1 million, or 72% of total expenditures, which is in line with other governmental entities, especially those that provide educational services. If we look at your general fund and compare it to the final amended budget, you'll see that you were under budget by $1.4 million. Your actual expenditures were also under budget by $4.7 million. Overall, you added to fund balance $3.2 million. This includes a transfer of $5.8 million from Choice Partners, but you also always transfer money to the federal programs for the Head Start program and other federal programs that have matching requirements that must be met through local funding as well. Your ending fund balance was $32.6 million, with $20.9 million unassigned for appropriations available to the board. If we look at your fund balance and compare it or equate it to how many days would that last if all revenues were to cease, that would equate to 162 days. The minimum, or the danger zone as I like to call it, would be $3.9 million. So this is saying if you continued spending at the $47.2 million level, and all revenues were to cease, that fund balance of $20.9 million would last 162 days. But if it hit $3.9 million, it would only last 30 days. The Government Finance Officers Association, to which you also submit this comprehensive annual financial report, recommends that you have fund balance of at least 90 days. And so currently you're at 20.9. Optimal is $11.6 million. Dr. Amezcua, and also I made other comments too, which is important, that Because you do have about $25.6 million in federal funds, you're required to spend your local monies first in order to comply with cash management requirements that are set by the Office of Management and Budget at the federal level. And then also, you don't start collecting your 2020 taxes until January, so you need that fund balance available.
Thank you. I just wanted to point out in the annual report on page 32 is the fund balance that is identified that we will use to update our report. And also on page 36 is usually what we look at during the budget, which is the general fund and how we ended up the year. I'd like to recognize Stephanie Wright, our Chief Accounting Officer, that worked with me and the business staff. So if you could stand, Ms. Wright, because they did a lot of hard work in the business office and also herself. That's it.
Do we have any questions? That's an action item. Oh, I know. Okay, so back where we were at, Sarah, I believe I made a motion that was seconded. Did I make a motion? Okay. Okay, do we have a motion on consider acceptance of the 2018-19 annual financial audit?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Do we have any discussion? Seeing no discussion, let's move it for a vote. All in favor, raise your hand. Let's move on. Let's consider the approval of the proposed annual budget for calendar year 2021, for fiscal year 2021. Do I have a motion? Do I have a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion?
I have a question. Can I get just a little bit of clarification on what department-wide entails?
Yes, that includes things like the TRS on behalf that Ms. Ceres mentioned, also facility charges that are in the general fund for the departments that are in the general fund, and any expenditure that is not attributable to a specific division that is more department-wide, that identifies things like contracted services or supplies that are identified that serve more than one division. But the majority of those two is facility charges and TRS on behalf. That's the majority of the bulk, about 98% of that.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
We have a motion and we have a second on considering, on 7B, considering approval of the proposed annual budget for calendar year 2021. So is there any more discussion? Seeing no more discussion, let's move it for a vote. All in favor, raise your hand. Passes unanimously. Consider approval to purchase the 2 new 2020 model vehicles from excuse me. Consider approval, I'm getting ahead of myself. Consider approval of fiscal year 2019 to 2020 investment resolution for the annual review of HCDE's investment policy. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion?
Yes.
Please, Richard.
Is this C or D?
C.
I'm sorry, my question is on D.
I skipped it. We both were getting ahead of ourselves, Richard. Okay, is there any discussion on C?
In compliance with Chapter 2256, we're required to review our investment policy and make changes as appropriate. There are no recommended changes at this time. It's just an annual review. It needs to be brought before the board, and so we're recommending to re-adopt the policy as presented.
Excellent. Okay. Seeing no discussion, let's put it for a vote. All in favor? Okay, passes unanimously. Okay, now we're moving to C. Oh, we're moving to D? Yeah, okay, I'm sorry. I'm gonna get this right yet. We're moving to D. Consider approval to purchase 2 new 2020 model vehicles from Lake Country Chevrolet. HGAC by contract number VE11-18.
Move.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Richard?
No, I noticed we're buying this through the HGAC buy. I'm just wondering, if this is not something we don't have available through our,
Not currently, we don't have any vehicles through our cooperative this time.
we're working on, or?
Possibly, we're gonna evaluate and see if there's a possibility to enter the market. It's just a very specialized market that usually, cooperatives have a niche, and we haven't had that niche ourselves, but we may evaluate and see if we're able to enter that market in the future.
I'd like to make a comment, being an auto guy. I was surprised at how low a price we got these Suburbans for. It's considerably below the market or the sticker price.
Getting Fords or Chevys, Don?
Well, I suggested Ford Transits, but our superintendent said that they were too expensive. And he has assured me, and we've gone over, these Suburbans will carry what we need to carry.
Got it for a good price. Is there any more discussion on this?
If we were to eventually offer, I guess it would be what, fleet vehicles through our choice partners, would we be saving that $600?
Yes.
And what are we using the vehicles for?
I got that.
Okay.
Couple
please.
things, just real quick to Mr. Cantu, is that, first of all, we always, Dr. Amesqua and Rich and Jeff, every service that we contract with or that we try to do, we always try to work through our choice partners. We're basically feeding ourselves. So it makes sense. It's good for the vendors who do work with us, and we get good prices. The purpose of the Suburbans is, especially with our choice partners, they travel to conferences throughout the year. And the screen that you saw us take a picture in front of, we've got several things like that that are so big they can't put them in their personal vehicles. That right now we have staff that's actually renting cars because they can't stuff all the equipment to prep up for expos and exhibits and stuff like that. And so initially, this actually came to my attention during the budget process last year, and I said no. And then when I went to the conference, they're like, yeah, we really wanted Suburbans, but for somehow it didn't happen. I was like, I was the reason why. And so they were like, yeah, we can't fit all the stuff in our cars. We're having to rent a car to get our exhibits right. So I said, that's a mistake. I'm gonna put it on the agenda and see if we can't get you 2 Suburbans. Now, the other purpose that these Suburbans will use is if we have to take a number of our staff to go to like the State of the County event, which we go annually, or we go to the state of Hcde, why take 5 different vehicles when we can put the people in Harris County Department of Ed Suburban and all go at once? So they'll have multiple purposes. I would imagine we'll probably be purchasing some more in the future, but there's going to be some people that are really happy if this gets approved.
I do have a question. Is this, do you consider this a reasonable and necessary business expense?
Yes, sir.
Okay, let's put it for a vote. All in favor, raise your hand. All opposed, passes unanimously. Let's go to F. Consider approval of removal of Josh Flynn as a director. Or E. I'm just skipping today.
Slow down, little cowboy.
Okay, I'm gonna slow down. Let's go to E. Consider an approval of an order authorizing the execution and the delivery of the lease revenue bonds series 2016 supplemental trust indenture. and improving other matters incident and relating thereto. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Is there any discussion? Okay. Having no discussion, let's put it to a vote. All in favor, raise your hand. Now we move to F. Consider approval of removal of Josh Flynn as a director of the HCDE Public Facilities Corporation Board of Directors. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second? Second. Is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, let's move it for a vote. All in favor, raise your hand. Okay. G, consider appointment of directors of the HCDE Public Facility Corporation Board of Directors. 3 possible director positions, open/vacant.
Can I make a statement before we get motions?
You can, please.
Thank you, Chairman Dick. It's my understanding from talking to legal counsel that we actually have 3 vacant positions. There was an amendment made to the policy about a year ago. February, where we actually added an additional seat to the PFC. I would encourage the board that not only do we need to fill these 3 seats, I would recommend that we not fill them with 3 board members. Because what will end up happening is we will have 4 board members on the PFC, which will constitute a quorum. So I'm going to make a recommendation and a suggestion that we add one of our facilities people to the PFC. Joe, what's Joe's last name? Yeah, I can't say it like that. Carone. I'm not rolling my R's today, brother.
What's his name again?
Yeah. He's like our project manager. He's very good, very sharp, and he would really bring some value to that committee, and that would also keep us from having 4 board members on there. I would also just say that, and it's not my place to vote or make motions or anything, but I know Mr. Sumner's term is up and Mr. Wolf's term is up, and obviously Mr. Flynn isn't part of this board anymore, but because of Mr. Sumner's background with construction and finance and real estate, he has a skill set that's actually been very appreciated on the PFC. And with that, that's all I have.
And I would note it's customary for the board president to serve on this board, but I'm happy not to serve on this board, and I'd be happy for my position to be maybe filled by Danny Norris instead. That's what I'd recommend. Do I have a motion? And the motion would be a nomination of somebody for the position on the PFC board. So I'd move that Danny Norris be named to the PFC board. That would be the motion I'd make.
Seconded.
Okay. Is there any discussion?
Just a question. So what do those numbers come out? So there's 3 open seats. That's Don, Mike's, and Josh's seat rolled off. So, okay, so
there's 3 open seats. Mr. Cantu already serves on the PFC board.
Right.
And as Mr. Colbert said, and it's my recommendation as well, not to fill the 3 remaining seats with 3 HC board members.
Just 2 board
because
members.
then that'll be a quorum of this board, which is a little problematic for Open Meetings Act purposes and additional reasons. So you could, but you can avoid that if you put 2 board members, HCD board members on the PFC board, and then a 3rd additional person that Mr. Colbert recommended, Joe Cadillon.
Well, I think it should be noted that that was also kind of a recommendation to you that you had when we added a 3rd member too, that we were going to put ourselves in a position where we're just having another board meeting. And that's not the purpose of a PFC, having 4 board members on that facilities committee.
Yeah, you can do them one at a time.
Can we
carry on?
Can we amend the motion to reappoint Don Sumners, to appoint Danny Norris, and to appoint Joe Carrion? All in one?
To do one motion on all three, that's permissible if you can. If Mr. Dick and Ms. Duhan agree to that, it'll be a friendly amendment, but otherwise, is that okay with you, Mr. Dick?
I'm fine with that if that's what we want to do.
So the amended motion is to appoint Mr. Norris, Mr. Sumners, and Mr. Carrion as directors of the PFC board.
Is there any discussion? Let's move it for a vote. Well, I guess that's a friendly amendment, so it's seconded. So all in favor, raise your hand. So we do not have an executive session, right?
Nope, we're done.
Did you? I didn't skip it this time. So, do I have a motion?
So move.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Do I have a second?
Seconded.
All in favor? All right. Painless.